Hello, everybody. Today I am your Pokemon professor, Austin Dodson, here today to tell you all about the most hidden secrets that plague our Pokemon world. Fun fact, anytime I'm not recording a video, I usually wear these glasses because I actually do need them. But I found when recording a video, they tend to reflect a lot, and so it's just automatic. It's just ultimately more of a struggle than it's worth. Anyway, regardless, today we are talking about the aspects of the Pokemon world that Pokemon, they don't know exactly what you're talking about, or Game Freak, or Nintendo, or whoever happens to control the IP at this point, because it's getting more unclear every year. So the first thing I kind of wanted to talk about is the fact that Pokemon battling is a sport. This isn't really an unknown part of the Pokemon world or like a dark crevice or anything, but you know, we can't get into the dark stuff right away. You gotta start with something a little bit light. And so, just the fact that Pokemon battling is a sport in the Pokemon world, which, on the surface, seems cool, you know? There's things like circuses where animals are trained, but at the same time, I don't think people refer to training animals as a sport in most cases. Because that is what Pokemon are. Pokemon are the animals of the Pokemon world. And if that wasn't clear enough by the fact that almost all of them are derivative of animals, such as Pikachu being derivative of a mouse, Eevee being derivative of a fox, and all that other mixture of stuff. Obviously not all of them are full-on derivatives of animals. There are some that go their own way and are a little bit more unique than just an animal. But still, for the most part, they're all based on some type of animal, or at least close enough to an animal. And so that just ultimately begs the question, how? Like, because thinking about it logistically, I still haven't been able to wrap my brain around it as someone who's loved this franchise since I was young. Which is the fact that, ever since the beginning, technically, we've had the Pokemon League. This is considered a sport. Being able to pick... Get over here, Blake. Being able to pick up an animal and say, alright, Blake, you scratch. You scratch. Okay, that's not exactly scratch. You usually cuddles, don't you? You're not a fighter. No. But anyway, basically, you get the point. And I mean, technically, they're only battling to the point of fainting, but still. And it's just even more bizarre to me because of the origins. Even the origins of Pokemon was based off of the creator having played a game with his friends when they were younger about battling beetles. And so it's just ultimately the perfect weird thing where it's like, it's considered a sport, but technically speaking, the trainer doesn't have to do shit. Like, seriously, the most active the trainers get in a given battle is just going, alright, Pikachu, use Thunderbolts! Which, granted, I guess if you're doing that constantly, would get tiring after a certain point. But, you know, I also don't necessarily think you need to muscular train yourself to be able to go and do that constantly. You know, so, you know, and this is seen in the Pokemon world. There are tons of Pokemon trainers in a variety of body types. Some are a little bit chunky, and others are extremely athletic and thin, depending on what else they do in their lives. And so it's just weird to me, and this is what makes it weird to me that it's considered a sport. Because typically, when you think about sports, you think about something that takes some level of activity, I guess. I mean, I guess the argument to that would be esports. But even esports, while you're not physically active, you're mentally active. It's like playing a really big game of chess for most esports. There's a reason not just any game can be an esport, but it's specifically games like Valorant, Overwatch, League of Legends, etc. Games that have an inherently competitive element to them and are designed almost like more advanced versions of, say, chess. They're strategy games that require you to work with a team. And so, which I guess if you're going by that definition and saying esports are sports, then maybe. But even still, I still argue that it's not you actively doing it. Because that's the thing about sports. It's typically you and your team. You yourself are working with other individuals to work toward a common goal, with all of you having something to bring to the table. But in Pokemon, you're still assembling a team, which I guess that would just make you the coach. Oh my god, it makes a lot more sense than I thought.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
I'll just scrap this whole part of the video. But okay, so they are fighting with animals is considered a sport in the Pokemon world. Okay, we can accept that at this point. The other thing that Pokemon really doesn't want you to talk about is the fact that they eat Pokemon, which comes with the natural extension of if the Pokemon are animals in this world, then what are they eating when they're eating, say, meat? Animals. And honestly, in more recent games, they've started to embrace it more and more. But they definitely kept it more hidden in the older games. For example, the only real reference you could find to the fact that they eat Pokemon is in Slowpoke's Pokédex entry, in which it explicitly states that Slowpoke tail is considered a delicacy. And even then, they go try and put in all this extra explanation to explain why. Where they say that Slowpoke have no nerve endings in their tail, and they often use their tails to fish. But because their tails are so numb, some people just chop it off, and they'll eat Slowpoke tail as a delicacy. I mean, obviously you're never given the option to do that, truly. But, well, I mean, there is an option in the game where there's a black market salesman type guy that's offering Slowpoke tail. But they intentionally made the price impossible for you to actually achieve in that game. So, you can do it. Like, the option is technically there, but you can't actually do it, because it's outside of the max money limit. But regardless, that is in the Pokédex entry. And that does show that in the world, Slowpoke tail is in fact considered a delicacy. And this is even shown in the first series of the anime a decent amount, where in the anime they did not stray away from the idea at all. In one part of the anime, we have Meowth dreaming of a Magikarp fillet, which you could say is just a cat thinking about eating a fish, which is relatively natural. But that doesn't explain how in other episodes they're actively eating what at least looks to be deep-fried Magikarp. And on top of that, there's an entire industry around selling Miltank milk. And obviously Miltanks are designed after a cow. And in fact, Miltank itself even has the move Milk Drink to restore its own HP. So there's that. And so very clearly, they are animals, and they do eat them. Which does make me wonder what some of them would taste like in a weird way. But like I said, the more recent if earlier Pokemon games just kind of hinted and mentioned it, the more recent games outright confirm it and embrace it. Because in this latest game, there's a lot of Pokemon parts. This is in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. But there are Pokemon parts that you can actually collect. Which is anytime you faint a Pokemon and anytime you capture a Pokemon, you'll get whatever drop item that Pokemon happens to drop. And these are drops that go all the way from Meowth to Pidgeyclaw. Pidgey's in the game. But you know, it's like various parts of Pokemon. And like some of them do get a little bit more on the goofy side, like Toxel Sparks. Which, how are you collecting sparks? But that is what they say, Toxel Sparks. And so obviously some of them are a bit more on the goofy side, and a bit more like, oh, this is just a goofy Pokemon thing. And I mean, I guess technically you're not eating those parts, because those parts are only used to make TMs, which are moves from other Pokemon. But they just couldn't help themselves. They really couldn't. Because in the other feature of the game, which is the sandwich making feature, you can get a wide variety of ingredients. At least one of the ingredients you can get is an ingredient called cloth sticks. Cloth, if you don't know, is this Pokemon. They're crab sticks. And so, very clearly, they're not shying away from the idea that, yes, you are eating Pokemon in the Pokemon world. That is just an accepted part of the world. Which, again, like I said, we've known for a long time. There have been a lot of Pokedex entries that, if you do read into them, do mention that sort of thing. But it is a little weird to think about the fact that they're actively showing it now. Because, I mean, imagine eating... Because technically you're sharing the sandwich, whatever sandwich you make, with your entire team. So imagine having an entire team of cloth and forcing them to eat a cloth stick sandwich. That's gotta be interesting. Or maybe they're used to it. Maybe cloths are... Well, cloths are based off of crabs, so are crabs cannibals? Let's look this up now. Oh! Shit. According to this, it says juvenile crabs. It specifically talked about the juvenile blue crabs. Juvenile crabs and adult crabs alike have a wide diet, ranging from detritus to mollusks to other crabs. Blue Crab Archives. In wild habitats, cannibalism is common and may even be necessary to regulate the population. So, yeah, apparently real-life crabs would cannibalize each other. So maybe the idea of a cloth eating cloth sticks isn't exactly as far stretched as I would have wanted to believe. Okay then. You know, this all has me thinking. You know how there's shiny Pokemon, rare 1 in 4,000 chance Pokemon to appear. You think there's a special market for, like, shiny meat? Like, for example, how there's Tauros, which is probably what would be hamburger in this world. Do you think that there's, like, a special market somewhere for, like, shiny Tauros meat? I would love to hear your thoughts. But that's just kind of the topic of this video. It's kind of, I guess, exposing those darker aspects of the Pokemon world, mainly just the eating thing. The cannibalism, I did not expect to find, but we found it. I guess that shows what happens when you do your research. How do I end this? How do I go from cannibalism to ending the video? Stay safe, and remember, you're not a crab, so don't eat your fellow man. I don't know. So this is going to be in the bonus content, but this sweater, I've worn it in my previous short, now I've worn it in this video. This is actually a sweater I got from my grandma for Christmas, and I love it so much. And so that's why I've been wearing it constantly. Literally any moment that I am not outside of the house, I am wearing this in pajama pants. It's just so comfy. Especially now that we're in winter, so it gets a lot colder in the house, a lot easier. It's just perfect. And no, it did not come with thumb holes. I cut thumb holes inside of it. Because I don't like long sleeves unless I'm able to cover at least part of my hands as well. And so that's why I love thumb holes. So yes, I technically tore it apart already. But only that small part. That small portion. But yeah, so if you're wondering where I got this sweater, jacket, shirt, I don't know. It's from my grandma. And I don't know where she got it. All I know is that she got it shipped.